The Shroud of Turin has fueled intense debate for centuries, but a groundbreaking study from August 2024 has uncovered shocking evidence that could change everything we thought we knew about this mysterious relic. This is not just an ancient cloth, it could be a direct link to one of the most pivotal moments in human history, the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The new findings reveal microscopic traces of blood and torture that align with the brutal suffering described in the Bible, pushing the mystery of the shroud beyond mere speculation. Could this be undeniable proof of Christ's death and resurrection? The implications are staggering, and what you're about to learn could challenge centuries of skepticism, casting a new and chilling light on one of the most controversial artifacts known to mankind. Stay with us as we dive into these unprecedented revelations that may forever change the way we view history, faith, and science. Critics from the National Research Council's Institute of Crystallography in Italy have recently completed an extensive and groundbreaking study on one of the most controversial artifacts in religious history, the Shroud of Turin. For those unfamiliar, the Shroud of Turin is a relic believed by many to be the very cloth that was used to wrap the body of Jesus Christ after his crucifixion. This sacred burial cloth first appeared publicly sometime in the 14th century, sparking centuries of heated debate. Could this be the authentic shroud that covered Christ's body after his death on the cross? Or is it merely a sophisticated medieval forgery, cleverly designed to deceive? Critics have long claimed that the shroud is not genuine and is simply a relic of the Middle Ages, created long after Christ's time. However, astonishing new findings could challenge everything we thought we knew about this sacred artifact. The Shroud of Turin plays a significant role in Christian tradition, as the Bible recounts how Joseph of Arimathea took Jesus' lifeless body, wrapped it in a burial cloth, and laid him to rest in a tomb. According to the Gospel stories, Christ was resurrected from the dead, leaving behind the shroud, which many believe now bears his image. For years, this image, barely visible on the cloth, has puzzled scientists and believers alike. Skeptics have dismissed it as a medieval creation, but the image itself is unlike anything that could have been created during that era. The faint imprint of a man standing between 5 and 6 tall appears to have endured unimaginable torture, crowned with thorns, scourged, and crucified. What makes the image even more extraordinary is that it looks like a photographic negative, a technique unknown in the Middle Ages if the shroud is indeed a fake. How could medieval forgers have produced something so advanced, using technology that didn't exist for hundreds of years? This is where things take an unexpected and fascinating turn. A recent study has just revealed startling new evidence that may finally provide insight into the authenticity of the Shroud of Turin. Researchers identified ferritin-containing, creatinine particles on the cloth, particles that are typically produced by intense muscle contractions during severe trauma. This microscopic evidence strongly suggests that the man depicted on the shroud suffered agonizing torture. Consistent with the descriptions of Christ's suffering in the Bible, these particles provide the strongest physical link yet between the shroud and the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. The discovery of bloodstains, specifically on the hands, feet, and chest, further supports the notion that the man in the shroud endured injuries similar to those described in the Gospels. The blood on the cloth matches the wounds inflicted by crucifixion, including a spear wound to the chest that would have occurred post-mortem, exactly as described in the Bible when a Roman soldier pierced Christ's side. These findings come from a study led by Giulio Fanti, an associate professor at the University of Padua's Department of Industrial Engineering. Fanti has devoted years to researching the shroud and has been studying the artifact since 2004. His most recent work, supported by funding from a religious organization that has chosen to remain anonymous, has taken the investigation even further. In addition to the blood evidence, Fanti and his team have identified a mysterious, almost transparent substance woven between the threads of the shroud. This substance, according to the study, could be a fluid produced by pulmonary edema, a condition linked to the buildup of fluid in the lungs, often caused by asphyxiation. Asphyxiation is one of the primary causes of death in crucifixion victims, adding yet another layer of credibility to the theory that the Shroud of Turin is indeed authentic. What's even more chilling is that Fanti's analysis of the shroud reveals disturbing details about the man's injuries. The man's right eye appears sunken, with a vertical mark running over the eyelid, suggesting that he may have been struck in the face during the flagellation. This blow might have caused the man to go blind in that eye, adding to the torture he endured. This supports the gospel accounts of Jesus' suffering, which describe how he was scourged, beaten, and mocked with a crown of thorns before being crucified. One of the report's most haunting revelations is that a thorn from Christ's crown might have pierced his right eye, blinding him and adding yet another element of suffering to his final hours. The Shroud of Turin is a 14-foot long and 4-foot wide piece of linen, containing an almost ghostly image of a man who bears the scars of the brutal torture described in the Bible. Every wound, from the scourging on his back to the nails driven through his hands and feet, matches perfectly with the details from the Gospels. It's as if the shroud serves as an ancient photograph capturing a moment frozen in time, preserving the agony of the crucifixion for all to witness. How can we reconcile such an image with the doubts raised by skeptics? If the shroud is a medieval creation, why does the image align so perfectly with the gospel accounts? And how could a technique like photography have existed in a time when it was unknown? Despite all this evidence, the Catholic Church has remained neutral on the shroud's authenticity, leaving the matter to scientific research. And scientific inquiry has been divided, producing a wide array of conflicting conclusions over the decades. Some studies have dated the shroud to the Middle Ages, while others claim it could be much older, possibly even dating back to the time of Christ. Even now, with modern technology, we are no closer to a definitive answer. The Shroud of Turin remains shrouded in mystery, raising more questions than it answers. Is the Shroud of Turin real or fake? Why do so many people believe it to be a medieval fake? Well, here's where things take a mysterious turn. The answer lies in the controversial 1988 carbon dating test, which proved the cloth was from the 12th century. Is that really the complete picture? Or did it mark the start of something much more mysterious? Scientists have refuted the assertion, highlighting flaws in the testing method. They also noted that the carbon dating procedure was carried out with a piece of cloth from repairs made to the shroud in the Middle Ages. According to a 2014 investigation by Italian forensic scientists Matteo Barini and Luigi Garlascelli, the blood patterns on the shroud did not match those left by a person who had been crucified. In 2018, the Journal of Forensic Sciences published this investigation. Garlascelli also shared a YouTube video of his 2015 experiment. In the video, he rubbed a sponge against a plastic mannequin to observe how the artificial blood flowed and compared the patterns to those found in real people in various positions. A number of specialists and investigators questioned the 2014 study. They argued that the results did not match the precision of earlier investigations. Some of these earlier studies used cadavers of men who died from hemipericardium or blood clots in the heart. This condition is thought to have been the final cause of Jesus' death on the cross. In the 1980s, scientists dated the Shroud of Turin using radiocarbon dating and concluded that it was created during the Middle Ages. Many people concluded that it was not Christ's burial garment, because it was a medieval counterfeit instead of an ancient artifact. If anyone knows anything about the shroud, that's what the majority of people are aware of. The Shroud of Turin was a fascinating puzzle with missing pieces for them. Which section of the shroud did they examine? Was anything contaminated? Were the dating results correct? Well, you might want to pay close attention now, because things are about to get really shocking. Recently, a new study came to light that seems to be more accurate. The study looked at the flax cellulose's natural aging process in the shroud and converted it to determine how old it was. Using X-rays, scientists examined 8 tiny clot samples taken from the shroud to learn more about the composition and patterns of the linen. They used this knowledge to reverse engineer the age of the cloth, because cellulose degrades with time. Based on the study, the material of the shroud shows qualities with samples that date to the 1st century, specifically from 55 to 74 AD. The scientists also compared the Shroud of Turin with samples of medieval linen from the 13th and 14th centuries when the 1988 study claimed the shroud was fabricated. But the samples were very different from one another. This indicates that it couldn't have originated in the 13th or 14th centuries, which means it had to be from the 1st century. To put it differently, it must have been from the time when our Lord was crucified. The lead researcher of the study, Dr. Liberato de Caro, said that fabric samples are usually polluted in some way. This prevents them from being completely removed from the dated specimen. For example, incomplete sample cleaning compromises the reliability of carbon-14 dating. Thus, this is just a much more precise dating technique. Recent scientific studies suggest that the Shroud of Turin is likely the type of shroud that once belonged to Jesus. What is your perspective on the Shroud of Turin, a cloth that is shrouded in mystery and has a picture that defies description? This becomes even more intriguing when you consider the state of technology at the time it was reportedly created. Claiming to be the cloth that covered Christ during his burial, the shroud has a long history. If you told someone about this, they could laugh and say that's ridiculous. When it originally surfaced in public, it was merely a made-up fake. It's simply superstitions and folklore, nothing more. Imagine, however, presenting them with research that concludes no, this cloth is ancient and the image on it is photographic negative. How would you interpret that? For some, even pious people, it's mind-boggling and even frightening. It's too crazy to believe in the Shroud of Turin, some people may say. And then there is a miraculous cloth known as the Tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe, which has baffled mankind for 5 centuries. This delicate material, from a peasant garment, should have fallen apart in 30 or 40 years, but it's still in wonderful condition. At the start of the 20th century, anarchists tried to blow it up together with the church, but the fabric survived. Rather, a crucifix curved around it, appearing as though it was safeguarding it. What could be more incredible? Upon closer inspection, scientists discovered that the Tilma's eyes were incredibly realistic, reflecting even the room in which it was on display. It resembled something from a mystery book, but it's true. Even pious people find things like the Shroud of Turin and the Tilma of Our Lady of Guadalupe extremely scandalous. They say no, no, no. Religion is an abstract concept. It has nothing to do with this piece of clothing or this event that occurred on this day. The Greeks search for wisdom and the Jews look for sins, says a passage from the 1 Corinthians, but we preach the crucified Christ. Greeks and Jews find it foolish or confusing, but for believers, Christ is a symbol of God's power and wisdom. God's weakness is stronger than man's, and God's stupidity is wiser than man. It begins to make sense when you read a study like this and think, wow, this could actually be the miraculous burial shroud of Christ. You might also consider the possibility that the Tilma is a miraculous image that no one else can explain. The most simple and convincing answer is that these might actually be real miracles. You may suddenly conclude, wow, maybe all that the Bible and the church have taught about how God desires to be worshipped and how we should live is true. It's something actual and significant rather than just theoretical concepts. For many people, this concept may seem surprising. It's disturbing to consider that religion may be more than just a matter of personal preference and that it has actual, tangible solutions. What if there's an authentic truth and a proper way to live? You may need to use your reasoning to embrace faith in revelation and live morally so that you can get a true understanding of God. The Shroud of Turin has long been a source of heated debate, but this latest groundbreaking study sheds new light on the possibility that this ancient cloth might indeed be the very shroud that covered Jesus Christ during his crucifixion and resurrection. And with the discovery of microscopic traces of blood and torture consistent with the biblical account, combined with advanced dating methods that suggest the cloth dates back to the 1st century, this relic continues to captivate the imagination of both believers and skeptics alike. The implications are profound, forcing us to reconsider what we know about history, science, and faith. Could this be the undeniable proof of Christ's suffering and resurrection? Or will the mystery remain unresolved? Only time and further research will tell. As we reflect on this profound discovery, it's clear that the Shroud of Turin serves as more than just an artifact. It symbolizes a connection between the physical and spiritual, a tangible reminder of a pivotal moment in history that still resonates today. If you found this content intriguing, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth explorations of historical and religious mysteries. Please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments, and let us know what you believe about the Shroud of Turin. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.